Welcome to this week's What's for Dinner video. My name is Ashley. I'm going to be showing you 3 different meals I made this past week. I don't always follow recipes exactly, but if you're interested, I've linked some similar recipes down below. The first dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made some gravy smothered meatballs with mashed potatoes and some green beans. I am starting out with my potatoes so I can get those cooking in water, so I'm just going to chop them up into small cubes, that way I can boil them. Right now I am loving gold potatoes over the russet potatoes, and I don't think that I'm going to go back. So while the potatoes are cooking, I'm going to work on my chicken gravy. So to a pot, I added about 2.5 cups of plain water, and then I added in some chicken bouillon powder, basically as much as I'd like. I'm going to stir that around and bring it up to a boil, and then I'm going to slowly add in some cornstarch slurry. So I basically did that to my desired gravy thickness. Once I liked the gravy at its thickness, then I turned the heat down because it does tend to thicken up as it cools. So once my potatoes were done, I just drained them and put them back into this pot, and now I'm using my hand mixer, which is the first time I've actually really attempted using them for mashed potatoes, and I loved it so much. So I'm basically going to add in all my fixings for mashed potatoes. I'm using some butter, some milk, some cream cheese, garlic salt, garlic powder, pepper, onion powder, and some dried parsley. These truly were my best potatoes ever, and I definitely owe that to the hand mixer. It just made it so creamy. Next, I'm going to work on my meatballs, so I am just using the Costco Italian style meatballs. I just had a little bit of oil in the pan heating up, and I'm just going to toss these in with a lid and let them kind of cook in the middle and cook on the outside. At the same time, I just seasoned some green beans and threw that in the oven to bake. This is how everything looked when it was done. It was super good, and the mashed potatoes were obviously my favorite. The next dinner I'm going to be showing you, I made some barbecue grilled chicken sandwiches with some bacon and some potato wedges. So I'm just going to start out with my potatoes. These are smaller potatoes, so the wedges aren't too big, but it did work perfectly fine to make potato wedge slices. So I'm just cutting those up and placing them into a strainer so I can wash them, and then I will start cooking them. So next I'm going to place them on a small baking sheet to cook. I'm just going to spray the cookie sheet with a little bit of oil, and then I'm just going to place them with the skin down. This is definitely a small baking sheet for these. I'm actually not going to season the potatoes this time. I wanted to see how it went without seasoning them first, because sometimes the seasonings do burn. So next I'm going to cook a couple pieces of bacon for the sandwiches. I'm just going to place these in a frying pan and let these fry and cook all the way through. So once they were nice and brown, I just went ahead and flipped them. I try not to flip my bacon too much, usually like once or twice throughout the whole cooking process. So then once the bacon was done, I just set it aside on a plate with a little paper towel, and then I will work on my chicken. So I'm using my George Foreman grill to grill up this chicken. I didn't love it because it didn't get as charred as I would have liked, so this is kind of how it went. This is how everything looked put together. I just seasoned the potatoes with some salt afterwards, and everything was super good. The last dinner I'm going to be showing you is my favorite pasta ever. It is a Cajun chicken linguine. This is actually inspired from the Red Lobster menu, their Cajun chicken linguine, and I absolutely love it. So for my chicken, I'm just going to cut them up into bite-sized pieces already instead of grill the chicken whole and then cut it. This just kind of makes everything go a lot quicker, and we just love the chicken in the pasta anyway. So I am going to use 2 whole chicken breasts and 1 whole box of pasta. We are going over to my mom's later on this night, so I just decided to make it all. That way we can give her the leftover. So I'm going to first start cooking the chicken in my new wok. I am so excited. I got this as a wedding gift and I am so happy to have a wok and be using this again. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of butter in the pan, let that melt down, and then I'm going to add in the chicken and start seasoning it. You already know that I don't go light on the seasonings, so I'm going to season with some garlic powder, some onion powder, some pepper, and some Cajun seasoning. So I'm just going to toss that all around, make sure all the chicken is coated, and then let the chicken cook all the way through. At the same time, I do have a pot of boiling water with some linguine noodles cooking. The smell of this chicken was so good. Like I tell you all the time, I could literally just eat this chicken over rice. So next I'm going to work on the sauce. So I am just going to throw in a little bit of butter. It's basically an Alfredo sauce with some Cajun seasoning. So I threw in some butter with some garlic and I'm going to let that cook down. So I'm going to add a little bit of the Cajun seasoning and some red pepper flakes to the garlic butter so that can kind of start cooking and infusing in the butter. So next I'm going to add in the heavy whipping cream. I'm just going to let this start cooking, let it simmering and thickening up. Then I'm going to add in the cheese and all of my seasonings, and that's basically how I make the sauce. Making your own Alfredo sauce is a million times better than the jarred, and that is something I will always stand by. Next, I'm going to throw in the chicken and let all those flavors kind of mix together, since the chicken does have a lot of flavor on it. So lastly, I'm just going to throw in my linguine noodles, the whole box, and I'm just going to toss this all together. This was so good, and at the same time I do have some green beans cooking with a piece of garlic bread. This is how everything looked when it was done. Forever my favorite pasta. Thank you so much for watching this week's What's for Dinner video. Make sure you come back next week for another one.